Hello, good evening, and welcome to this very special edition of the program. This will be our first interview with a sitting president of Ghana on this program. So we are eternally grateful to His Excellency John Mahama for accepting to speak to us this morning in his home before he goes to work. Hello, sir.
Hi, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Your gray hair, what's happening? What's going on? Why are you developing gray hairs?
Well, I don't know. I guess that
are you thinking too much?
It's an occupational hazard of leadership. If you look at other leaders, they're growing gray hairs. I mean, you have a responsibility to carry, and it's only natural.
But that's a huge responsibility because a lot of people are reporting to you every day, and you came to this, even though you did from vice president, so you were sort of acquainted with it already. How does it work? How does it work in the morning till the evening? What's a typical day like?
Well, one of the major challenges is strengthening institutions so that institutions are working predictably and providing the service they should to the citizens. Once that is happening, then it eases the pressure on the presidency, and then you can look more midterm and long-term planning. But you find yourself in the presidency having to deal with issues that are short-term that should be dealt with at the level of the MDAs because of the institutional weaknesses that we have. And so one of the major programs is institutional strengthening, improving technology uptake in the various MDAs and others. That's why we're working on the public financial management system, the GIFMIS. You know, we're working with the revenue authorities to strengthen their technology uptake, share their databases and information and all that. It's quite a tough job.
Barack Obama relies on his BlackBerry a lot, and I see that you are also very technology man. Does your phone help you to do some of these things? Do you send WhatsApp to your ministers? Do you receive emails from them on your phone?
Yeah, it does. It does. Considering my previous existence as Minister of Communications, I am quite abreast with communications, and so I use all the latest.
So you're on WhatsApp?
Yes, of course.
And you load a photograph on?
Yes, of course.
Oh, you do? I see. So your children communicate with you on WhatsApp?
They do. They send photos. They send messages. We're on Flickr. We download messages from Flickr, pictures from Flickr and all that. Yeah, we use all the latest applications.
I see.
And it helps me keep in touch with my people. If you can't get through with a voice call, you send them a message, they send back, and you can communicate seamlessly. And it's good because we've seen a major expansion in mobile broadband across the country. And so wherever you are, in any remote part of Ghana, you can either check your email or send messages without much problem.
There's been many firsts with your presidency. One of them is that you were the first to become president overnight, given the unfortunate circumstances of 24th July. The other is that you, the first presidential candidate who won elections as president on the first take and did win in the first round. But the other first is that you are the only winner of an election whose victory was challenged in the Supreme Court for 8 months, and the verdict eventually came in your favor to confirm that you were validly elected as president. But how was that time?
I think it has its upside and its downsides. The upside is that it strengthened Ghana's democracy, and it's continued to put us out there in front as a beacon of democracy in the whole of Africa. The downside was that it distracted the nation and took the whole attention of the nation for 8 months. You couldn't get anybody to focus on anything. And so 8 months in a presidential term of 4 years is significant. But I think the positives are better. Our judiciary is the better for it to have made such a landmark decision. And it's made Ghana a beacon of democracy in the whole of Africa.
But Your Excellency, there's another downside to the country today. Part of our country will not see this interview because they don't have lights. And we've been going through this for a while. You had promised that in 2013 it will be over. It's not over yet. And your critics are saying that you have failed with the energy sector.
I think that the energy sector is the sector that presents the most challenge to all the presidents, you know, who have led this country, from President Rawlings to President Kufuor to President John Mills, and it's an issue that takes a lot of my time as president, the energy sector. We need to take a comprehensive look at our energy sector in order that we fashion sustainable solutions to it. Ghana's demand for energy has been growing as a result of the acceleration in the growth of the economy. And so you must plan in terms of the generation that you're putting in. The estimate is that we must build a 220 megawatt plant every year continuously over the next 10 years to be able to keep up.
Every year?
Yes.
220?
To keep up with the growth in demand that Ghana is experiencing.
So something like repeat Asogli every year?
You must repeat an Asogli every year if you are to keep up sustainably with Ghana's demand going forward based on the rate of growth of the economy. And so what we're looking at is a comprehensive, sustainable solution. What you must remember that sometimes some of the elements are out of your control. For instance, at the time that I said what I said, it was based on receiving sufficient gas from the West African gas pipeline after it had been repaired because there had been a disruption in the pipeline. That pipeline was repaired and we currently have gas flowing through, but at the same time, Nigeria's demand for gas has increased. And so they're not able to give us as much gas as we have contracted to receive.
But are they not obliged to give it to us?
They are obliged to give it to us, but if they don't give it to us, they pay us a penalty, and the penalty is $10 million. Is it worth the gas that you did not receive? You understand? If they default in giving it, there's a penalty they pay. But I don't think that that penalty compensates for the gas we didn't receive. Now what happens is, in the Tema enclave, we have, you know, several thermal plants there. A certain percentage of those plants run only on gas. And so if there's no gas, you cannot import crude oil and run those plants on crude oil. And so as a result of that, we have a gap in generation, averagely of about 300 to 400 megawatts. Now, that is why in the past few years, I've paid a lot of attention to bringing our own gas on stream. The long-delayed Ghana Gas Etuabo plant is currently going through commissioning and testing, and we have started to receive some gas in Aboadze. As they ramp up, you know, the gas available in Aboadze, that should give us some security in terms of generation and should ease the situation somewhat. But we will still need gas from Nigeria to run our thermal plants in Tema. We're looking to some medium-term solution so that we're not too dependent on the gas pipeline, but we certainly are putting in more generation because we have the 10 field coming up that is going to provide more gas from 2016. And then we have just initial the ENI Sankofa field, which is going to bring us even more gas. Ghana potentially can produce about 300 million standard cubic feet of gas.
Per annum?
Etuabo per day.
Per day?
Etuabo's capacity is about 120 million standard cubic feet of gas per day.
Oh, I see. That's impressive.
By the time we add 10 and we add Sankofa, it will push us up to 300 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. And so that should be able to put in more generation. And so what we're doing is looking forward. We've signed several MOUs with Jacobson, with Amandi. We've signed Asogli Phase 2. And we also have Senate Power coming on stream. The Chrome plant that has been sitting for a long time is also going to come on stream. By the time this gas becomes available, we should have these plants ready to run to be able to receive that gas. Otherwise, Aboadze alone is not going to be able to...
So we don't deal with Akosombo again. When we were children growing up, Akosombo was always the big deal. Is it now a minor factor in our gas energy dynamics?
Akosombo? Yeah, increasingly it's becoming minor. When Akosombo was built, 1 unit of Akosombo powered the whole of Ghana, just 1 unit. And remember that Akosombo has 6 units. Today, the 6 units is not sufficient. It's we currently are, because of the low level of the lake, not using 1 unit. And when you're not using 1 unit, then you take the opportunity to conduct maintenance on it. So we're using 5 units in Akosombo. And Ghana's demand for power has far outstripped Akosombo. I think Akosombo should be producing about 40% of our power, when before 1 unit was powering the whole of Ghana.
I'll stay on the energy for a while because I want to ask you why you fired the ECG boss. And also to remind you, I'm sure you already know, that the ECG workers say that you should bring him back. Otherwise, they will shut down the systems in the whole country. And also, we'll talk about the Bui Dam after the break. We'll stay on energy. And so that's His Excellency John Mahama speaking to us on a wide range of issues. We are now on energy. Tell your friend to tell his friend. If they have lights off, go to your friend's house and just see President Mahama on TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And Your Excellency, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. You
commissioned Bui with a lot of excitement, and you also made it a non-partisan event by inviting your political opponents. We heard later, though, that Bui was supposed to deliver something like 400 megawatts and is not delivering 400 megawatts. What's the point? Is it an incompetence of your government? What's going on?
It was a great day when we commissioned Bui, and I commissioned it not with my political opponent, the former president of Ghana, President John Mahama. And we had factored in Bui as part of the addition to our generation. And so that's why one would have made some of the promises that he made, because you expected that 400 megawatts was coming into to supplement what we already have. But unfortunately, because of the nature of the reservoir and the reservoir levels, you cannot...
The water reservoir.
Yes, you cannot run Bui at full capacity. So the full 400 megawatts is never, ever available to you. So Bui has become what we call a peaking plant. And so what you do is you can run like 1 unit, and then at a time, or 2 units, at a time when the peak load comes in, then you kick in the 3rd unit. But then you must quickly shut it down after the peak load in order that you maintain the reservoir level, because it has a minimum operating level. And so the reality is that, yes, we spent a lot of money on Bui. Yes, it's capable of providing 400 megawatts, but it cannot provide 400 megawatts continuously. You can only get 400 megawatts in situations of a peak load, because if you run it at peak continuously, then you draw down.
Why were we not told? Why were Ghanaians not told that? Why was our hopes?
Well, we should
increased?
all take lessons from some of these things. We must have a full understanding of what technically, we're going into, and I guess that.
Should we blame President Mahama for not telling us the whole story?
No, I don't think that anybody is to blame. It is there. It is providing power, you understand? And we should use it for what its role is going to be in terms of peaking, so that when we have energy power surges in terms of people demanding more load, then you kick in Bui. The other mini hydros that have potential that we must look at too, and see how we can explore the full potential of the hydro that is available to us.
So we are not abandoning hydro altogether?
No, not altogether. There are 16 additional mini hydro sites that we can look at. One is what we're discussing with the President of Togo, is the Joale project, which is a potential 80 to 90 megawatt project that would potentially serve parts of northern region and also parts of northern Togo, because the dam that will be built will spill over into Togo. And so it's one that we can develop jointly and use the power together.
The ECG boss was fired by you, Your Excellency, sometime last week. Why did you sack him?
I don't know where that is coming from. He's not been sacked. He's been reassigned. We are creating a new ministry. And he's assigned to that new ministry in a capacity that would be very useful to power supply in Ghana. He's not been sacked.
Why did you have to change him at the time when we were experiencing, was it a reflection of your lack of confidence in the work that he was doing?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, like a football coach, you make certain changes at certain times, to complement, what you're trying to achieve. And if you believe that he has talents that will help a new minister that is coming in, you assign him there so that he can play that role. I think that it's about teamwork. We should not, drill down on personalities. I mean, managing directors have come and gone. ECG should concentrate on how they build a team. If you take one person out of a team, the team must continue to be able to operate. You can't tell me that if you took Paul Adom-Otchere out of Metro is going to collapse. No, then it's not a good team. And so it shouldn't be about personalities. It should be about the team and how they work together to achieve the objectives of the organization. And he's still in the power sector. He's going to play a role in the power sector.
Well, whilst government experts have said that ECG workers have no right to challenge decisions like that by a president, this is government experts who've said that. We know, though, that the ECG workers have threatened something. How has your office received that threat?
Well, I just ask the workers to calm down and continue to do their job. I mean, we appreciate the work that they're doing, and all of us are concerned to make ECG better. And so I think that they might have concerns, but they should calm down and work as a team with the management that is in place and with the new ministry, that we have created to be able to give Ghanaians, what they want. Ghanaians want power, and they want that power distributed in the most efficient manner. And that is the same objective government has. And so I don't think that the objective of the ECG workers and the objective of government is different. We all have the same objective to ensure that ECG is the most efficient distributor of power in West Africa.
That should bring us to the power sector. This morning the radio has been criticizing you for extending the government bureaucracy, duplicating work of the Energy and Petroleum Ministry. Why did you have to create another ministry? You are adding to the bureaucracy. What's the philosophy of this? What was the philosophy that informed the creation of a new Ministry of Power?
It's not going to expand expenditure in respect of the ministries because in the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, people were doing specific duties in both sectors, in the oil and gas production sector and in the petroleum sector. And so I don't see it increasing in terms of manpower and in terms of hiring. But what it gives us, what advantage it gives us is, it gives us a ministry that is focusing. Power has become the major issue in Ghana. People are making investment decisions where to invest in West Africa based on availability of power. If we don't put ourselves out front there to be the major power hub in this sub-region, we would lose investment to Cote d'Ivoire, and as Nigeria continues to get its act together in terms of its power supply, we would lose investments to Nigeria. And so we need to take action that will ensure that the power sector is having a 24-hour focus of a minister and a ministry behind it to ensure that the objectives that we have set ourselves to achieve 5,000 megawatts is realizable. And that's why...
When are we achieving the 5,000 megawatts?
We've signed MOUs for achieving that. As I sit here, we have the General Electric 1,000 project, which will bring 1,000 megawatts. Collectively, between Senate, Asogli, and all the others, we're talking of about another 1,500 megawatts. When the plant comes on stream, we should get another 200, 300 megawatts.
So which year?
Power.
Which year?
We're planning for 2016.
By the end of 2016?
By the end of 2016, that was the target. But I guess there'll be a spillover into 2017. Most of these plants, I believe, should be ready in 2017.
This Atuabo gas that's now on stream, I want to spend the next 2 minutes talking about it. It's taken a very long time. And we heard this and heard that, and we stopped believing it. It eventually happened. So what are the immediate benefits of that one for somebody who is listening and hears that there's some new gas on stream? What are the immediate benefits?
Yeah, the immediate benefits of Atuabo are that we can receive gas in the Aboazi enclave. As you know, we have a cluster of thermal plants in Aboazi. We have the TICO plant, we have the TAPCO plant, we have T3, and currently T4 is going to be built. All these plants run on gas, and so the availability of gas in Atuabo means that we will not need to buy light crude to run the thermal plants that are currently located in Aboazi. Aside from that, as we ramp up production of our own gas, we can connect the Osagifo plant, which you remember was involved in the Balkan issue. We can connect the Osagifo plant. That would also add additional generation. There are other plants that are planned for the Western Enclave power corridor. And as more gas becomes available, then those plants would have gas to run on. So the immediate benefit is that we are receiving gas in Aboazi, and we would it will cut down the amount of crude oil that we have to provide in Abuaze to run the TICO and the TAPCO plants.
So government will make savings on the money that we're
definitely. Gas costs about 48% of its equivalent in crude oil. And so you can imagine, you know, the savings that you will make. About 52% of the cost, you know, you would save in respect of use of gas and use of crude oil. Aside from that, gas fires better, and it lowers the maintenance cost of the plants. Crude oil, when you fire with crude oil, you have all the fuel injection systems that must convert the fuel into a spray so that the combustion can ignite. And so, aside from maintaining the main turbine, you're also maintaining the fuel injection system. But when it's running on gas, the gas goes straight into the turbine and it ignites. So it will reduce the maintenance cost of the plants too, and that is significant.
That sounds like Engineer Mahama, but it's actually President Mahama talking to us, expressing his passion about the gas sector. So let me ask you the question again. I'm taking you back to the IEA debate at 2012. Put the question again. Mr. President, when will the power crisis be over?
I've learned not to make those kinds of promises anymore, but I believe that we're doing enough to ensure that it's over sooner than later. At the time that I made those promises, it was based on various parameters that had been worked out, that the West African gas pipeline was going to be restored, that the Etrabo gas power was going to be available in 2013. I didn't know at the time that we were not going to realize it till 2014 because of slow disbursement of the loan facility. Remember, at the time, Sinopec threatened to pack off site because the CDB loan hadn't been disbursed. These are all factors that are out of our control. And so when you make some, you know, predictions, you make them based on the information that is available to you at the time. But I don't want to touch you. I don't want to make those kinds of predictions again. But I'm sure that we're working on this so well that we'll see relief sooner than later.
Sooner than later? Before Christmas?
Well, we'll continue to reduce the gap. We're working to continue to reduce the gap. And as the gap reduces, then more power will be made available.
Let's talk about infrastructure now. And there was a lot of campaign promises on infrastructure. Kwame Nkrumah Circle appears visible to all. Kaswa also is coming up. The concern from your political opponents is that the cost of these infrastructure is astronomically expensive. We'll talk about the 200 SSS schools that you also promised. But why is the cost expensive? And is it expensive?
Well, I think that often it's short-sighted, you know, to just, you know, make that kind of statement or allegation without really looking at what the scope of the works indicated are. If you just take it on face value and say Kwame Nkrumah interchange is costing this much, without looking at the kind of work that needs to be done, then you often will get it wrong. I'm told that there was criticism that Kaswa interchange at 170 million was too expensive, but
as compared to N1. You know.
Well, as compared, if I remember, N1 was far more expensive than Kaswa, and unless you do a scope, a comparison of the scope of works of the two, it is very difficult to reach that kind of conclusion. It's very short-sighted to just take, you know, the value, you know, that is assigned to the projects and based on that say that they are overpriced. The N1 was, I think, 219 million, which is far more expensive than the Kaswa interchange. But you must look also at the scope of work of Kaswa. It's not only the interchange. There is going to be work on all the roads in between Kaswa and Gas South. It comes up to more than 20 kilometers.
Gas South is Weja and places like that.
In Weja, there's going to be a connection from Kaswa so that you can come out on the Nsawam Road. You don't need to come to Malam and take the, what do you call that new road?
Okay, so from Kaswa to Kumasi and to Eastern region.
There'll be a road that links you straight onto the Nsawam Road so that you can go through there. And the roads within that place, Amanfrom and all those areas are going to be upgraded. You know, there are bridges, there's a state-of-the-art polyclinic that is going to be built.
All part of that infrastructure?
They're all part of that infrastructure. That's why I'm saying that when you see a cost, you must look at what the scope of works is, because it might not necessarily relate to just what they call it Kaswa interchange. Because
so there's not just roads, the
polyclinic. It's not just roads. There's a polyclinic, there are schools, there are 4 schools that are going to be built.
Oh, I see. As part of this project?
Yeah, Millennium Schools. There are 4 Millennium Schools going to be built as part of the project. There's a state-of-the-art polyclinic going to be built. There are bridges over major rivers going to be built. And then there are roads in the Kaswa, Amanfrom, Weja, Gan South area that are going to be upgraded as part of the works. And so that's what I'm saying, short-sighted to just hear Kaswa interchange and say it's overpriced.
I'm hearing for the first time that it's not just the road, and it's not just bridges, which are a complement of road, but now other infrastructures like health facilities.
Yeah, now what we're doing is we're making the roads what we call development corridors. They're no longer just the roads. And so any road we're doing it together with challenges that face the people in the communities there. We believe that a road should not just pass through a community and just leave the people in the situation in which they are, so that it's only the people who use cars that just benefit from the road. The communities adjoining the roads must benefit from the road project. And that is why with the Awoshi-Pokwasi Road, we're building schools, we're building markets, we're building lorry stations, we're building health facilities for the people. It's all part of the road corridor. It's the same with Kaswa. We're not just building the road, we're building schools for the communities. We're building a polyclinic, to serve the community and doing several other things. Even if you take the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, because it's a commercial area, to reduce, the squatters and things who normally come there, there are going to be some facilities for stalls, under the interchange. There's going to be an ambulance station. There's going to be a police post. There's going to be a first aid, post.
Oh, that's impressive, I have to say. That's impressive.
All as part of the Kwame Nkrumah interchange.
So you're sort of changing the economic viability of the entire area.
Exactly. We believe that the road must impact on economic activity and on the general development of communities who use or who adjoin the road. And so the concept of road construction has changed completely. And so these 2 interchanges are examples of that new.
But do we have concept. Money for these works?
Yeah, it's a credit facility that was approved by Parliament, and so the money is available for the works.
So do you know when these will be over in terms of delivering them?
The Kwame Nkrumah interchange is progressing very fast. I don't remember what the exact completion date is, but the rate at which they're going, I'm sure that they will finish ahead of the target date. The Kaswa interchange will commence by end of year, and I don't know how many months it's supposed to take, but with the kind of engineering that we see the contractor do, I'm sure that that will help us achieve the project earlier than targeted. It is the last major bottleneck. After we opened the Malam interchange, all the traffic has gone to bunch up in Kaswa, and you should drive one evening from Central Region or be going to Central Region, and you would see what the need for that particular interchange is. I've driven by road into the city, from time to time, and the traffic that I've seen there, I mean, it's amazing. It's terrible.
There's another road for viewers in Accra, the Bema Camp interchange, which is going to South Trade Fair. How is that coming up? What's the purpose of that?
What we're doing is to raise Accra to a whole new level. The number of cars, in the city is rising. The population of the city is increasing, and so we are seeing a lot of congestion on the roads that are available. Now, what we're doing is looking at seeing how we can provide road users with more alternatives. That is what, any city planner should be doing. Provide more alternatives to reaching the same destination. And so we realized that over the years, Spintex, Bachona, Regimanuel area have become huge residential areas. There used to be an industrial area before, and if you went beyond, it was cattle herders who used to graze their cattle there. Today, those are sprawling residential areas and mostly middle-class areas where almost every family has a vehicle. And so all those commuters are trying to get into the city from the northeastern part of the city. And the only way they can come is along the Spintex Road or along the Teshi Coastal Road. And so behind Bema Camp, we are opening alternative routes that allow them to come more directly into the city without having to use just those two options. And so by next year, we'll open that network of roads, and it should allow people from Teshi, from Spintex, Bachona area, to come through the Bema Camp, pass, between the Air Force Base and Bema Camp itself and hit the Gifford Road. And they can turn right towards 37 or do a U-turn and go towards Trade Fair. We've done the Rasta Bush Road to allow people to come from Teshi, directly onto the Trade Fair Military Academy Road. So it's all about giving motorists, alternatives so that they don't go and bunch up in Tetekwashi or bunch up in Teshi, Nungwa, and create all the congestion there. Next year when we open, those cluster of roads, people will see what we've been working on. A lot of people don't know that that road construction is going
I know
on.
that area very well. I'm impressed with your understanding of Bachona and Rasta Bush Road. Have you been there before? Do you go to these places, Mr. President?
Occasionally, I go to inspect the pace of work.
And you ask them for the name of the road, and they told you it's Rasta Bush Road?
The roads people keep briefing me, and I just retain
that's interesting.
the names of the roads and
you know
that.
Bachona and all of that?
Yes, I do.
I see. I see. Anyway, you're still watching the interview with President Mahama. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about foreign policy, foreign travels. You have been criticized for jetting too frequently out of the country when there's dumsor and then you are away on the plane somewhere or there. Some of them have been well received by Ghanaians, but some of them they don't. One of those that have been well received by Ghanaians is like the photograph behind us. You got some blessing from him?
The Pope.
What did he tell you? Did he lay hands on you? Did you say the Hail Mary?
I thought we would do that after the break.
Okay, let's do that after the break. Let's do that after the break. So after the break, we'll talk about Vatican Palace, and then Vatican, actually, this is not a palace. Vatican is a church. And after that, we will look at all the other issues on foreign travels of the president. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. I'm sure that you're enjoying the interview. I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and I've still not recovered from your Rasta Bush Road reference. It's quite interesting. So what did the Pope say?
Well, the Pope is the head of the Vatican, and the Vatican has had a diplomatic mission here, represented by the Pro-Nuncio for many, many years. And so when I became president, President Mills had made an intention to reciprocate by opening a mission in the Vatican. And so I fulfilled, that wish of President Mills by appointing Mr. Beba Comensa as our first ambassador to the Vatican. Since he went there, he's been working actively. He's quite well known in the Vatican community. And we received an invitation to pay a visit to the Pope. We postponed it twice. And eventually a date was fixed that we had mutually agreed. And so on behalf of our Catholic faithful, I led a delegation. I think it was a very important visit. And we held discussions with the Pope. He's a very impressive man, very well read, and he keeps abreast with everything happening all over the world. And so we discussed Ukraine, we discussed West Africa, we discussed Ebola, we discussed ISIS, we discussed Boko Haram.
Well, see, that's interesting.
Yes, a lot of things. I mean, very, very knowledgeable. And the Catholic Church does a lot of work in Ghana in terms of humanitarian and material programs. The CRS distributes food. The Catholic Church controls a lot of hospitals, mission hospitals. They are active in education, and so that's an organization that government must, keep strong bilateral ties with. And so that was the reason for that visit. But he was very happy to receive us, and he asked me to extend his greetings, not only to the Catholic faithful in Ghana, but all the people in Ghana.
I should have started this by congratulating you too on the your ascension as ECOWAS president. So maybe it's in place now to say congratulations, sir. You have joined the League of Ghanaian Presidents who have become ECOWAS president, but yours has been a very difficult one. Ebola immediately occurred when you became ECOWAS president. Then we've had Burkina Faso. So let's talk a bit about ECOWAS. What's going on?
I think that my being given the chairmanship of the Authority of Heads of State is something that is a credit to our country. It's the confidence that our peers have in Ghana that would make them appoint, a president that early in his term. I had hardly been more than 1 year in office, which is unusual, and then I was asked to take the chairmanship of ECOWAS. It's come with a lot of responsibility. At the time I took it, of course, I knew we had security challenges in the sub-region, and so that was one of the priorities that I was going to work on. I was also going to work on strengthening our integration between our countries in the sub-region, and then also I promised that we would work on infrastructure, that is infrastructure that services the whole of the sub-region rather than, as individual countries. And we started to do that. We started to commission joint border posts so that when people travel between our countries, they don't have to go through two different border posts. They are processed once with all our immigration and customs and everybody in one border post. And so we've commissioned the first one at Mwepe. Others are being built between us and the other neighboring countries. Aside from that, we are members of the West African Power Pool, and so at any time that we have any excess power, we're able to evacuate it and sell it to countries that have a deficit. At the time, we didn't anticipate that Ebola was also going to become a problem. And so about March, we started getting the warning signals that, there was an outbreak of Ebola, and it was necessary as ECOWAS chair for me to champion, that issue. And I did a lot of advocacy on it. I raised it with all international partners. I made it a major issue on the UN General Assembly platform. And I think that helped to kick in the international response we're seeing, and also offered Accra as the logistics base and staging post for fighting Ebola in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. A lot of people didn't understand why I did that. But if we don't help them to stem the tide, we cannot remain safe forever. God has been good to us, and so far we don't have a single incident. But if it continues to spiral in those three countries, the likelihood that one day we'll get infected is there. And so we must help them to get it under control so that then we also are able to protect ourselves. And so far it's working. Liberia is turning around. The cases are going down. Sierra Leone is still a worry, but we are in collaboration with UNMIA and all of them to see how we can turn the situation around. And with the good news we're hearing about a vaccine by end of the year, early next year, I'm sure that we'll have another instrument, available to us in the fight against Ebola. We've also been conferring on issues of security. I've held several ECOWAS meetings here in Accra. We've discussed the security situation in Mali, and it was in Accra that we gave blessing to the Algeria conference that took place. And since the Algeria conference, there's been a roadmap, towards the peaceful settlement of the Malian crisis. Boko Haram continues to be a problem, and we're going to see how we can work closely with Chad and Cameroon, which are not members of ECOWAS. They are members of the Central African Economic Bloc, but they share borders with Nigeria. And if Nigeria is going to be successful in the fight against Boko Haram, then we need to get the cooperation of Cameroon and Chad, to help Nigeria in this fight. And so that's an area I'm going to be involved in too.
Burkina Faso, sort of a West African spring, came up. Blaise Compaoré is now out of power.
Yeah.
And I think ECOWAS had successfully negotiated the military away and have been able to put in a civilian interim government. But it was tough, it was difficult. We didn't think of Burkina as one of those places, stable as it was, providing a lot of food even for Ghana. Suddenly people went on the street.
When you look at what happened in Burkina Faso, it gives you more lessons for strengthening democracy. Everything was okay. President Blaise Compaoré had 1 more year to go. He should have been handing over power in November. There is a clause in their constitution, Article 37, that limits the term of office of the president. It is not an entrenched clause. It can be overturned by a simple
majority in parliament.
Majority in parliament, yeah. And Blaise had intended to, change that clause so that he could run another term. It had come up in several of our ECOWAS meetings, and we had expressed a contrary view and kind of, advised, against it. Aside from that, we had held meetings with the opposition in Burkina. They had expressed their views.
Oh, at the ECOWAS level?
Yeah, President Ouattara had met with them on our behalf, and then they had expressed their views. They had come, and I had delegated some people to meet with them. And so we thought that it was a situation that could be managed, but unfortunately, Blaise went ahead to try and amend it, and of course, there was an explosion. It was necessary for us to bring the situation under control as quickly as possible. And so myself as ECOWAS chair, I conferred with the rest of the presidents, and it was decided that myself and President Macky Sall and President Goodluck Jonathan proceed to Burkina Faso and bring all the stakeholders together and insist that they go ahead with a transitional civilian-led government to lead them back into democracy and constitutional governance. And so we did that. We spoke to all of them, and we left a joint team in place made up of the AU, the UN, and ECOWAS that had Dr. Chambers, Edem Kojo, and the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Kadri Ouedraogo. And so they stayed there that whole time and supervised the process of negotiation until His Excellency Kafando was nominated as the transitional president. And last week we went back to install him in office.
But he's not going to run for the elections in November?
Anybody who participates in the transitional government is barred from running in the election. That was the agreement we reached.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So Burkina will be stable again?
It will be stable.
Congratulations, sir. You've done a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so why are you traveling? Why are you traveling so frequently?
Well, we have certain responsibilities that make it necessary for us to travel. I guess that people don't realize that I'm wearing two hats now. I wear the ECOWAS hat and also the hat of the President of Ghana. And as President of Ghana, you receive invitations to pay official visits. I received invitations from Norway and Denmark. And if you know the role Denmark plays in terms of bilateral support, you'd realize that it was useful to go to Denmark. I mean, Danida is involved in all kinds of projects across our country. And I paid not only an official visit, but also was the special guest at the Green Growth Forum, which Denmark hosts from time to time. We had very good discussions because Denmark is trying to change its ODA to Ghana from general budget support to more projects and development finance support. And so it was necessary for us to go and have a discussion with them on that. Norway has been supporting us strongly when it comes to oil and gas because they are a nation that has a lot of experience in oil and gas. And so all our legislation and other things that we're putting, Norway has been of assistance. And they have an oil for development program of which Ghana is a beneficiary. Indeed, Norway is giving a lot of its assistance to only 14 countries in the world, and Ghana is one of them. And so when I went there, there were 12 of my compatriots being trained in the oil and gas industry in order to increase our local content. You know, they're doing a lot of things for us. And so you look at all those things, and based on that, you accept an invitation when it is extended to you. We've paid other official visits to France, you know, to the UK at the invitation of those countries. But aside from that, I'm ECOWAS president too. So some of the travels that I do are in connection with being president of ECOWAS. My visit to the countries affected by Ebola, you know, was because I'm president of ECOWAS. My 2 visits to Burkina Faso was in regards of the security situation in Burkina Faso. My visit to Abuja was to discuss security with the president of Nigeria. And so there are many other such visits that one has had to pay as ECOWAS president. And so if you put the totality of that together, then people might think that one is on the road quite a bit.
Over-traveling.
Yeah, but I think that these are all, you know, in the interest and to the benefits of our country.
About your political party, the NDC, the elections are taking place. They are running for party chairman. You know from Parliament about all of these local elections. Is everything okay? Is everything calm within your party?
Yeah, things have gone smoothly. The process started way back with branch and ward elections, and then it had to be truncated at a point because of biometric registration exercise that the party was undertaking in order to create a modern database of its members across the country. And then it was resumed again with constituency elections, which went very successfully. And then recently we did our regional elections. They were all peaceful and very successful. And it's building up to the national elections, which will take place in December. And so far, it's been peaceful. And I think that NDC is establishing its democratic credentials as a party that you can rely on.
The only point, though, that you don't need to comment about is that somebody has now emerged to challenge General Mosquito, so we're observing that quite closely. But you don't need to comment about that. You don't need to comment about that. So,
well, we're a democratic party, and anybody can run for any position as long as you meet the criteria that is set out.
There's been one vexed issue in Ghana these days about a drug arrest in England of a young lady. We are happy now that there's been confirmation that the lady did not carry a Ghanaian diplomatic passport. But you have taken some decisions and some actions on it. How do you relate to that story?
We continue to be committed to the fight against drugs. And in that fight, we cannot do it alone. I mean, the whole world, there's a collaboration amongst governments, you know, to try and ensure that we stop, you know, this crime, this criminal trade. And so we have been collaborating with our international partners in respect of, you know, drug arrest and all that. What happens is we have to continue to appraise the weaknesses in our system and make sure that we tighten them so that these things don't happen again. The NACOB board had actually expired, and so we're in the process of going to reconstitute it. And so we're just going to go ahead and reconstitute it. And then the investigative agencies are looking at the circumstances under which the lady was able to do what she did, and we'll learn lessons from that and tighten things even further. One of the major things we need to look at is how the VIP is used and who has access to it. We need to really, you know, strengthen and tighten that.
It's been a very good interview, sir. I just have one request, that next time you want to do a cabinet reshuffle, please consider me. I want to be Central Regional Minister, if you don't mind. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much,
Well,
sir.
thank you.
Excellent. We hope that our successive sitting presidents will take a cue from that and grant interviews to local media. And we say we are eternally grateful to you. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you, Paul.
That was President John Dramani Mahama. Good night.